We're going to start today's class. Okay. All right, so we'll start with introductions. So we'll start with your name, what article you read last week, and then you can tell us like a brief description of what it was about. And then if you watched any English media, what was it, and then would you recommend it? I can start. So my name is Sonara, and then an article I read last week was about the Silicon Valley Bank collapse. And I need let's see, piece of English media that I watched was I watched the Hunger Game movies. Uh yeah, and I do recommend it, but if uh yeah, there's some like violence in it, but other than that, I recommend it. It's based off the Hunger Game books if you guys have read those. All right. Would anyone else like to go?
Hello, can you
Oh, yes,
hear
sir.
me?
Yeah, I can hear
Okay,
you.
my name is Azriga Singh. I wasn't able to read any books or any articles because there's a very big exam, third term exam going on
Oh,
here.
yeah, that's all right. You should focus on that.
And in English media, I just put out something. I watched a part of the escape rooms. I didn't watch the whole movie. It was okay. I can't really give that good of a, I don't have that high hopes or very good thoughts about that movie, so I
Yeah,
can't really give it a very high value.
that's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you guys weren't able to read an article or book last week, that's completely fine. Don't worry about it. Because I know you guys have your exams. But if you were able to watch anything, just or if you weren't able to, that's fine. Just let me know. All right. Chanali, would you like to go? Or Tarudini, sorry, I saw you in the chat.
Hi, my name is Chanuli. I read an article about the sun. It included several important facts about the sun. Uh, the sun is the main source that that provides energy for the existence of life on Earth, and it holds 99.86% of the total mass of the solar system, and its extent is 109 times of the diameter of the Earth, and the diameter is 1.4 million kilometers, and the sun revolves around its own axis. The time taken for one rotation is 25.4 Earth days. Yes, that's all. Thank you.
So thank you for sharing. Uh, Taradini, would you like to go? Or Dolvin? All right, if not, I think we're gonna move on from introductions. Um, okay, so we did some POV practice last week. We can quickly finish that third one and then move on to today's topic, which is relative clauses. And then we're just gonna go over the like relative like the pronouns used in relative clauses, some examples, and then finish off with some practice. So we'll start off finishing. So the link to the Google Doc. Sorry. The link to the Google Doc will be in the chat. So we can just do the third person. So scroll all the way to the second page. So we're going to finish our third person and then move on. So we can learn about relative clauses today. And if you have any questions or want to quickly review the types of the third person, you can let me know. But remember, omniscient is when our narrator or author knows everything that's going on. So they know like the thoughts of the characters and like the inner thoughts and the inner motivations of the characters. Uh, so they kind of like play an all-knowing role. And then limited is where the author knows some of the characters' thoughts, but not all of them. So, for example, the narrator will only know the thoughts of the main character, but won't know the thoughts of any of the characters around them. And then objective is where the author or narrator is just kind of telling the story based off things that they can see or observe. So, for example, so they wouldn't know any of the characters' inner thoughts. They would just know what the characters wanted based off their actions. So in this example, if your brother wanted ice cream, he would, in a limited, or sorry, in an objective example, he would, the author would write that the brother specifically said that he wanted ice cream, or or would say he wanted something cold and sweet. In a limited perspective, you could use my so in my example, I have um the main character, which is the sister, and you can see that she has like you can read her idea or read her thoughts, but you can't read her brother's thoughts. And you guys can just write like a sentence. And it doesn't have to be this long. It can be as short as you need. Just like as short as a sentence. It doesn't need to be. And I'll stop this like around 9:20 so we can get back to our lesson, or the lesson for today. I just want to make sure that we completely understand last week's topic. Yeah, that's good. But remember omniscient, you can read the inner thoughts of the characters as well, which is like kind of one of the main I guess defining factors of omniscient narration, or omniscient third person narration. But it's 9:20 now, so we'll move on from that because I really want to get started on our topic for today. All right. Thank you for typing it in the chat. All right. So a relative clause is a one of a kind dependent clause. So remember we have talked about dependent clauses in this class before. So a relative clause is one of a kind dependent clause. It's a subject and verb, but can't stand alone as a sentence. It's sometimes called an adjective clause because it functions like an adjective. It gives more information about a noun. A relative clause always begins with a relative pronoun, which substitutes for a noun phrase, or a pronoun when the sentences are combined. So, for example, we have my mother, who has brown hair, is standing there. So this is the main clause, the relative clause, and then the finishing portion of the main clause. So the relative clause just provides more information about the main clause and is introduced by a relative pronoun. So for example, the relative pronoun in this case is who. And the relative pronouns that are usually used in relative clauses are who, that, which, whose, and whom. So remember, relative clauses are just like supporting clauses, which is why it's under the dependent clause category. So these are relative pronouns. So who is one of the relative pronouns, and it's usually used when you're referring to a person or people. It substitutes for subject pronouns like he, she, we, and they. So yes. And then whom is another pronoun that we can use in relative clauses and the start of relative clauses. And these can also be used, this one can also be used for people. And it substitutes for object nouns / pronouns, him, her, us, and them. And then whose stands for people or things. So this can substitute for possessive nouns or pronouns. So an example of those would be his, hers, ours, and theirs. And then another pronoun is that, and this refers to people or things. So it can be used for either subject or object, and it can only be used in restrictive relative clauses, which I can explain later. And so restrictive relative clauses are basically relative clauses, but without using commas to like kind of separate it. And I can go over an example if you'd like later on. Another pronoun is which, and this pronoun is really only used for things, so it can be used for either subject or object. And yes, these last few, like non-restrictive relative clauses, are the type that we will be learning. So these are some examples of the relative clause. These are examples of relative clauses. So for example, using which, I don't, sorry, there you go. I want to adopt a dog, which I will bring with me wherever I go. So the relative clause in this example is which I will bring with me wherever I go. An example for who is the student who lives across the street still gets late to class. So in this example, you see we don't necessarily have to use a comma. But remember that this would still be considered a dependent clause on its own. And whose is the lady whose hair is in a bun is so beautiful. Whom? I want to talk to students whom I warned earlier. That I love books that make me cry. So if, you see with these, they're all talking about like a person or thing, and it kind of like emphasizes or gives more detail about that noun. All right. So we're gonna get some more practice on using which, who, where, and whose. So there won't be any examples of sorry, there won't be any use of the pronoun that in this case. But just remember that that pronoun can be used for people or things.
There,
Yes, where? Perfect. Sorry, let me. Give me 1 second, you guys. Sorry. Good job, Taradini. So she's right. Um, John, who turned 18 last week, had a strange party. It was held in a planetarium where they have special parties. Good job, Taradini. All right. What about number 2? Everything was dark, even in the room. Blank. We
there,
weren't. So can you say that one more time?
there,
Where? Yes. Okay. This one you can use. Um, this one it's where wouldn't be, I guess, the right way to use it. I think a better word for this one would be which, or that. I know it's not in the word bank, but which or that would be the pronouns that work best for number 2. So everything was dark in the room that we were in, or everything was dark, or everything was dark even in the room which we were in. We all had torches to see where we were going, but I still managed to fall over someone's bag. Blank had been left on the floor.
who that be?
That is a good example
Maybe.
or a good answer. And we have another one, another word that can work with that as well. With number 3.
Whose?
No, because we're talking about a bag, so it has to be a word that can be used for an object.
Which question?
Oh, so, we're on
Which
number 3.
had been left on the floor?
Yes. All right, what about 4? The person blank bag it was apologize for leaving it there, but I had hurt my leg and had to go to the hospital.
Yes. The person whose bag was.
And that's a typo. It should be it.
Whose bag? Or
Yes.
it's whose bag?
The person whose bag it was apologized for leaving it there. All right, what about for 5? John's parents
Who?
Good job. Who? John's parents, who had organized the party, decided it was better to turn on the lights after that. Unfortunately, the hospital blank they took me to was quite far away, so I missed the rest of the party.
That.
Yeah, that would be a good one. And then we can use another word as well.
Where?
Which?
Yeah. Where and which would also work in this case. All right, awesome. What about the last one, number 7? Unfortunately, the hospital that they took me to was quite far away, so I missed the rest of the party.
That.
Yes, you use that for this one as well. There's one more word. Yes, which. Awesome. Thank you, Daradini, and thank you, Chanali. And thank you for everyone who participated in that. All right. Now what we're gonna do is start converting regular sentences into sentences with relative clauses. So this one might be a little harder, but an example is he gave me this book for my birthday, and then we are gonna fill in the blank with the relative clause. So that's the book which he gave me for my birthday. So this one might take a second, but the shop is in London. I bought your present there. So how would we be able to convert that into a sentence with a relative clause in the middle? So the shop blank your present is in London. Give you a hint, but we have to use the word we have to use I bought.
The shop that I bought your present.
Which I bought you.
Which is it's a good try, but
Where I
the
bought your
yes,
pen.
where's correct, yeah. Awesome. So the shop where I bought your present is in London. All right. I wrote that essay last night. How would we convert that to a sentence with a relative clause? Use that I wrote. What else can we use?
Which I wrote.
So that I wrote and which I wrote would be the correct answers. So I wrote the essay last night. That's the essay which I wrote last night, or that's the essay that I wrote last night. Good job. All right, 9. Oh, sorry, not. The band's song is number 1 at that moment. And how would we convert that to have a relative clause?
That's the band which is number 1 at the moment.
No, because remember we have to talk about the band's song. But that's a good try.
The band whose song is
Yes. So the band whose song is number 1 at the moment. So the band song is number 1 at the moment, and the band whose song is number 1 at the moment. They both mean the same thing, but our second one has our relative clause. All right, my dad was born in that village and we spent a few days there. So how would we complete we spent a few days in the village?
Where my dad was born.
Yeah, perfect. Good job. What about number 5? The author lives in that house next to ours.
That's the house which is
Tarudin, you cut off a lot. Your mic was cutting off. Do you think you could type it in the chat? Yes, but can we transform that to where our pronoun is in the front? Because remember we usually have our yeah, over here it's usually introduced by a relative pronoun. So we'll try to complete this sentence with a phrase with a relative clause that uses the relative pronoun in the front.
Who lives next door?
The author lives in that house next to ours. The author who lives, and we can add some more detail to kind of match the sentence. So the author lives in that house next to ours would match, that's the author who lives in that house next to ours. Okay, did everyone understand? Does anyone have any questions on relative clauses? Also, thank you so much everyone for the participation today. I really appreciate that. All right, I'm not seeing any questions, so I think we can move on to our monologue or speech practice. But I did want to have you guys watch a clip of an English like conversation. So we can start with this. And it's just a quick 5-minute clip. You guys finished a lot quicker than I thought, but and thank you so much for the participation again. So we can watch this clip, and it's just like kind of soak in like the their like conversation, and yeah. So, oh, sorry. Just to reiterate, the point of this clip is just to kind of observe the conversation between the two characters. It's not necessarily meant to be like super funny or anything. It's just I just wanted to like get you guys to see kind of how English conversations work. So, yes.
Well, what did the police say? Can't believe someone just ate it. Ross is just a sandwich. I mean, 30 years old. What ate? The only good thing going on in
So, is the audio cutting out for you guys as well?
Yes.
Yes. All right. All right, that's fine then. We don't have to do that. Because the point of that video was kind of just to like for you guys to like get an understanding of the conversation, but if it's buggy, then we don't need to, because I don't want that kind of like ruins the purpose of it. All right. So we can just do our monologue, our speech practice. So just choose any question that you see on the board and answer and give us like a couple sentence like monologue answer. And I can give you guys some time to think about your response to the question that you want to answer. I can add one more. So what I mean by global rule is it's a rule that everyone in the world has to follow.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
After the second or fifth prompt went down, I knew what I was going to do. If I would rule the world only for a day, the
Mhm.
first global rule I would implement is going to be I am the one and only ruler in this world till I die. That's it.
Okay.
I am going to be the ruler of the entire world for the end of eternity.
Okay. So everyone will have to listen to you, basically.
Yes,
All right.
they can't. It's
And
the
then
rule now. I am the leader.
yeah, and what's the second rule that you would establish once you have established that you are the leader till you die?
I honestly don't know. Probably like what? No homework or something.
Okay.
But I would realistically make these exams in Sri Lanka way shorter. Like there's a 4-hour maths paper for us to do. I I don't want to go through that much pain. So I don't want any other children doing through the same sort of torture either. So I would make the exam shorter.
All right, awesome.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing. And if you would like, you can answer multiple questions as well. Would anyone else like to share?
Teacher,
Yes.
can I answer?
Yeah.
So in the second prompt
Mm.
that's given, if you could learn one skill instantly, so the skill is it have to be approachable by a human, or can it be superhuman?
I think I'll open it up. So it could be like just a human or a superhuman skill, either one.
I mean, if it was superhuman skill, I would just like take mystic arts or mm, reality manipulation
Also,
like skills. So
um,
then I would reality manipulation. I can make anything as I want.
is
That's
there a
probably it. I
superhero that
can
you can think of that has like a whose like powers are close to that?
reality manipulate.
Sure, like Doctor
The
Strange.
closest one, yeah, Doctor Strange. Or then Thanos. He's not exactly a superhero, but he can bend the universe at will.
Okay.
That kind of power.
Reality manipulation. What about a real life skill? For me, I think the skill that I would want to learn instantly would I don't know, just being more social, I guess. Like learning how to be, approachable and like just having
Just
uh
come to Sri Lanka.
just like
It's so
better
simple.
social skills. In Sri Lanka?
I mean, like,
I don't know, in
anything.
America, people love like um uh just like small talk here a lot. And so and I small talk's like really hard for me. So I just yeah, so I guess the skill that I would want to learn instantly would be like
So, so this
more
is the
social
question.
skills. Hmm.
I don't really know what small talk means. Like, what does it mean to have small talk?
It's
Um,
like conversation that doesn't really have like too much meaning to it. It's just like conversation to fill in time. Like talking about the weather or like just kind of or like saying, talking about like what you had for breakfast that day. It's just kind of like small, um, not really significant conversation, I guess. But yeah, like Americans like to do that a lot, even with like people they've like never met. So
okay, so problem question is,
yeah,
isn't that conversations like some? I don't know. I tried to make at least something, ask something with someone like how was your day today, or like that would be a long conversation. But what did you have for lunch? That would be at max 10 words of conversation. Like
yeah. It's
how
meant to be
could
like
that?
a short kind of it's a short kind of conversation that doesn't really have too much meaning, but you'll like experience it a lot here. Like
But
even
it's
if you're
like
like, yeah,
10 seconds, 10 words. Like is it actually that short?
yeah, like if I don't know if you're like in like a elevator. I remember when I was in like San Francisco the other day. Like we were taking an elevator up and um the person who was kind of like handling the elevator, he like he'll kind of like open up random conversations and they'll be like the small talk conversation type of conversations or like if you are in a lobby and there's one person there sometimes if they're like very social they'll like open up like a small talk conversation. It's just yeah, it's just kind of like in like social situations where you won't be kind of with that other person for too long. That's when like small talk usually happens. But yeah, it's
Okay,
yeah, if you guys are I don't know. But the thing is I do think that a small talk practice is good for learning English. We could try some of that right now if you guys would like, since we have about 10 minutes left. So we
so
could just
teacher,
talk about like the weather in our country. So how is the weather in Sri Lanka right now? I could talk about like the weather in California too. It's a little weird here. We're going through a rainstorm. Um and we had one like a couple weeks ago, and this is pretty strange for California. And so we have a couple of flood warnings. And some areas of California have already flooded a lot. Uh, and this is like mostly because our like infrastructure wasn't really built to handle floods because it's a sunny state and we don't ever get this much rain. Um, so yeah, that's our situation right now in California. So how is it over in Sri Lanka?
It's rain. It rained. I mean, like until like 12 or 1 o'clock or 1 p.m. It was sunny as like it was, I think, one of the sunniest days I have been alive. And then after I went home from tuition classes, then it started raining like it's crazy.
Yeah. And I know Sri Lanka, like, do you guys think that your infrastructure is well prepared for like for situations with like a lot of rain? Or do you think that there's some room for improvement?
Well, the thing is that a lot of people, like you may hear a lot about floods in Sri Lanka. The
Mm-hmm.
main reason for that is like most people build their houses in wetland cities or wetland places where they're like somewhat lower than the actual normal terrain. So
Mm-hmm.
sorry. So the all the water will come and flood that place first and then overflow to the rest. But oftentimes those places have actually enough absorption capability to actually hold down the water that is coming
Mm.
into the plain. But
Yeah,
when people build houses in it, they get flooded. We can't do
yeah.
anything about it.
Yeah, that's one of the issues with California too. It's because our land has gone through like so much droughts. It's not like its absorption capability like of our soil is very weak. And so the water tends to stay like above ground for a lot longer, and that causes like more floods. And our like systems and our dams aren't really like prepared for like this much um water. So yeah. That's that's like one thing. I do think California needs to improve on that, but this is kind of like a rare case storm. We don't really get storms that are this large ever. So
Oftentimes, like Colombo doesn't really go to with um, Colombo doesn't get flooded easily, but like Gampaha and those kind of places in Sri Lanka,
mm,
those
yeah.
places usually get flooded because they are more like wetlands and they're all completely situated in the wet zone.
Mm,
So that's that.
all right. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So that was a good conversation, and um make sure to like practice those also with your friends as much as you can. Um just talking about weather or just any kind of conversation. Oh, awesome. Taradini said the one skill she would instantly learn is to speak any language. That's awesome. So you could like speak fluently to, yep. So you could speak fluently to anyone on the planet. That's really useful. And if you speak and understand, right? So you could go to any country and then understand what they were saying and speak to them. That's amazing. That's a really good skill. All right. We have about 6 minutes left in class, so I will go over our homework. So for the homework, just try to read like an English article. And then I want you to try to watch an English movie or an English show because especially like English kids shows because they don't tend to speak as fast as like adult shows. So if you could find I know there's I don't know, there's a couple good kids shows. I think I'll next week I can show you guys the list that we like built last semester. So just try to watch an English movie or show and then tell me if you have found something that you like or find interesting. And then just try to have as much like English conversations as you can. Yeah. So thank you so much again for everyone for like the participation this week. And just keep on trying to have as much English like interaction as possible because that's the one thing that's going to help you the most. Like when I don't know, when my mom was learning English in Sri Lanka back when she didn't have too much access to lots of English TV. She would go and buy like English newspapers and then read them, and and she would study those. And if there was any like English like news channel on, she would watch that, even if like they spoke really fast. She would try to hang on to as much as she could. And then if there was any words that she didn't understand, she would kind of like search them up. So yeah, those are just some like uh just like just make sure to interact with as much like English content as you can. It'll help you the most when learning English. All right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
teacher.
Thank you. Bye bye.